Well, right on cue, Riders Republic released more detail about the upcoming updates to the bodies of water on the map. Are we about to get wet and wild up in here? And well, more importantly, though, is this the right direction for the game's future? Today, we're going to talk it through. It's time to dive into another episode of the Riders Report.
Before we get started today, we want to recognize our existing YouTube members. A special thank you goes out to executive producers Bone Crusher 2D, Coach 34, and my mom, and our fans and Fans Plus.
If you'd like to become a member for as low as 99 cents a month and help support our channel, you can hit join below to learn more about perks like early access to the Riders Report, emojis and badges, a members-only video per month, sneak peeks, and more.
The Riders Republic Twitter account seems to be giving out more hints to the next season. We had a tweet showing off some changes to the snowmobile, and then on Friday, we got a tweet showing a man in a rocket wingsuit floating in the water and then taking off, which hints at some changes to the water physics, and that could affect a lot of things in the new season, including the hoverboard and maybe things to come. So let's...
Don't you dare, don't even think about saying
let's dive into it.
There it is. Yeah, so this tweet kind of opens up a whole new can of worms surrounding last week's discussion about the last week's community update, talking about the hoverboard and the fact that it will be able to ride on dirt, snow, and water, opening up just like we have no idea what is to come with water. And then they tweet this video of a rocket wingsuiter floating in a body of water and taking off. And if you look at their legs in the video, doesn't look like they're standing on ground. Like, it looks like the legs are kind of free floating in the water, which alludes to water physics. How is this going to work? This is another speculation episode. We have none of the right answers, but this kind of throws a wrench into things.
This is, I think, where we can tell that they are watching, because when they said the hoverboard could be used on water, all of last video, we were discussing whether it'll just float above the water like a wingsuit and you can go over water, but you can't touch it. Or if they're changing something in the physics so that you no longer backtrack and freeze. And when I just tested, you could walk into the water until you hit the point about chest level where you would float, and that's where backtrack stops. Now we have a guy floating in the water and taking off from it. So that means a change to the water physics somehow. So where do you think it goes from there?
Yeah, I mean, we talked at length last week about water sports and whether or not whether or not they could happen, but is that the right thing to do on the map? Are we adding too many games, too many sports, too many things to do on the map? Are we getting lost in the sauce? Or is that the point of this game, is just to have every sport, whatever you want in the toolbox, go out and create and ride, which the more that we see, the more that kind of looks like the path they're going to take. And I don't know if I hate it. I just hope that it is executed properly.
Mm-hmm. My first thought, obviously, is water sports again. It was in the surveys like a year ago when they asked a whole bunch of different sports and what people would like. We have this massive river, the Colorado River, that extends basically divides all of the desert section from the rest of the map. And there's not much on it. So I think they could add some water sports. The first one is a jet ski. It would function just like the snowmobile. And the snowmobile doesn't have too many ground effects when you're riding on dirt or on the snow off to the side. So they wouldn't even have to do too much with the water as long as it can ride on top. And from there, they could open it up to other water sports. That will be determined later. But maybe they would do rocket water skis. Yeah. So they don't have to have a towing feature, but they could add a few of those, the hydrofoils, I'm thinking, those like powered boards.
Yeah, like an e-foil kind of, like something that is self-propelled underwater. So you don't have to, I think that push mechanic of the hydrofoil would be rough. It would be fun though. I think that'd be a fun timing thing, but yeah, I definitely see that being motorized.
My wild prediction, maybe not wild, but with the hoverboard being added and they said new challenges would be coming and some new features, And now that they say might be useful for the hoverboard in this tweet, I'm wondering if they add in a few ramps and kind of water park features on the river that can be used on the hoverboard, because it doesn't have to land on the water. It's a hoverboard. So they don't have to worry about those water physics and, making it look great for the hoverboard. But that's where you would get the jet ski and the water skis after we already have all these features on the river.
Yeah, I like that. Using the hoverboard as this, hey, we don't have to do a lot of work. We're kind of going to ease you into the thought of being on the water and how this is all going to play out. You perfect the UI, you perfect the experience of water sports and water competitions. And then you come out with, hey, they're also coming out with a freestyle snowmobile right now, which is lighter, looks more maneuverable, looks like the trick set is a little more robust, and could also be implemented directly onto a jet ski. What is a jet ski besides a snowmobile with a jet propulsion system instead of a belt-driven system? So yeah, a lot of this, if we're really looking into the crystal ball here, I can really see kind of the puzzle pieces that they're laying out here to get to the end game. We did talk about that last week, having, sort of an air sport style, you're cruising the hoverboard through the gates. You can do a water race. You can add little kickers, little jumps, whatever else on the water. My question here, will the water be completely, dictated for just water sports? Or do you see Red Bull coming up with not Flugtag, but something that's like a floating BMX, course? Like you have a proximity course or a very challenging, stay on this very thin line. And if you fall, you're in the water. But there's some sort of, game mechanic where you can just swim back to the platform, get back on your bike and try it again. Do we start to see the integration of road sports and dirt sports onto the water on like floating platforms and stuff as well?
I could see that as part of not this season,
like
but
a summer bash kind of like,
something
spring, summer break.
When we did those predictions on like how would you build your year two, a lot of people wanted a summer pass. So I would see that where they add some gates, maybe a race or two on the river for the hoverboard, maybe the wingsuit where you do the weaving, kind of like the airplane races. And then they add a couple jumps, but they could easily add a new, like you said, one of those inflatable parks or inflatable platforms with a skate park on it for the other sports.
Or you just add a giant kicker on top of one of the cliffs. So you're coming down, you're in the invitational, whatever else. And, let's go hit this one. Oh, crap, I'm over a body of water, but it's okay because you're going to land. Maybe it's like a monkey ball style target that they float down in the water, right? So you're hitting your bike and zoom off the cliff and you're trying to hit the bullseye. And it depends on how you hit the ramp, what speed, whatever else. You can kind of have that monkey ball, that super jump kind of competition. There's a lot that we could do with water, and just the fact that you're not going to hit it and go to backtrack. If they come up with some sort of floating mechanic, swimming mechanic, however that's going to work, I could see this working really well for the game and just, having like a summer blowout. It's going to feel like you're going to the park in the middle of the summer trying to beat the heat with your friends.
I think one of the other cool things they could do too with the river, and if they added a bigger lake in the desert in some of the unused area, they could put some of those cables that you see at the wakeboard parks above. So that way they don't have to have a boat pulling you. You don't have to have a rocket board. Just when you're on the river, you're holding like a tow rope that just goes along the river, but you can still turn the entire thing. So it doesn't have to be too intense. But that could get into some cool situations where you can use your normal skis and snowboard and you come down the hill, and once you hit the water, you just like grab onto a rope and now you're being pulled along the river.
Tow ropes. Yeah, we talked about tow ropes before the game's release and how having a tow rope in an urban setting would be sick for competition, pending that we have a replay mode. But that is a very interesting mechanic. I could also see, have you ever seen like those artificial surf lakes where they have the train that pushes a giant, basically like a giant cow pusher through the water and it generates a wave? Maybe we have one of those somewhere where the funky snowboard surfboard is actually used. Like, I don't see why we couldn't have surfboards in the near future. If we're going to have hydrofoils, everything else, a surfboard, for all intents and purposes, could use a lot of the mechanics and physics from a snowboard carving, right? Mm-hmm. So if they could find some way to implement that where, hey, there's an artificial wave or whatever else, I mean, but that is a giant overhaul of water. I know one of the hardest things to program in a game is realistic water simulation. So yeah, that was my other outstanding. This video does not show a ton of water physics. And I know you aren't completely on this train because, like you said, the snowmobile only affects the small patch of dirt around the belt on the back of it. It doesn't leave like a ton of tracks or push dirt or whatever else. But I feel like water is a little different because it's not a solid, it does move. It is very fluid. So do you think having a jet ski or a hydrofoil or surfboard, whatever it may be, do you think that's going to sell the illusion of being on the water if we don't have some sort of wake or some sort of, movement like that?
I think that's where that could come after you get the hoverboard and some of those floating ramps. If people really like using the water with the hoverboard, then they can figure out some spray effects. And with how that works on the snowmobiles and a lot of the other sports, it wouldn't have to be an effect coming off of the water so much. It could be like, just the texture and the stuff coming off of the actual jet ski.
Right. The animation of the engine.
Yeah. So like waves are coming out of the jet ski over top of this water layer instead of having to come from the water reacting itself.
That makes sense.
They're not so focused on like the insane details in the other sports. So that's one of the nice things about the arcadey side is they don't have to worry as much about that.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited to see how this is all implemented. And I think we're on to something. Who knows? They might tweet something this Friday that confirms something that we said in this week's episode. It's really weird how we were talking about the water physics, and then all of a sudden, 2 days later, it popped up on Twitter. So if you're hearing us, tweet something with the color pink being the foreground color this week. No,
or this is where they tweet something completely unrelated to what we talk about. Just to mess with us.
Completely bombs everything that we said this week. All right, here. Do you have anything else that you want to touch on with the water physics? Because I have like one ultimate question I think that could wrap up this week's main topic.
You can go for it.
Okay. Wow. I know the question, but I didn't know how to start it. Okay.
It's an ultimate question.
We're going to get hoverboards. We know that hoverboards are coming. The water will be here shortly, right? Having the water features and the water functionality. Would you rather have water sports take the center stage, where we get jet skis, we get hydrofoils, whatever that may be, or we get dirt bikes? And wait, before this, do you think that they're going to flood parts of the map? You were saying down in the desert, there are a lot of open patches, and I agree with you. There is a lot of open space that could be played with. Do you think that if water sports start to enter the game, that we're going to see parts of the map flood?
At some point, if they add more water sports, I think they will. I think dirt bike and quads, if those come, would still be first because those are much easier to implement. If they do see this going 5 years, like most of their games, then I think water would be 3 or 4, and they would flood in a year or two to add some more water features because a lot of people want a bigger map or new areas. That gets really hard to add and manage, and what map are you on?
Yeah, of course.
And it's just a lot of resources to do. So I think adding a ton of sports to the water and adding more water would be not as good, but pretty close to a new map update because it would give us so much more to do. So I think that would be a year 3, year 4 move.
So year 3, year 4 for water additions. You're putting dirt bikes in year 2 because you said that they would come before. Are you putting dirt bikes late this year? Is that what your prediction is?
Yeah.
All right. Let us know your predictions and let us know if you would rather have a dirt bike or a jet ski in Riders Republic coming up. Let us know your thoughts down below. Very interested to hear what y'all think.
I have the answer to all of our problems.
Yeah.
Dirt jet bike ski.
Well, you know, the one person who would absolutely demolish that sport. I love where your head's at, but I really think that sport would be tailor fit for our first rider in this week's roundup, Ian Hawk BMX.
Absolutely. Anything that has the word bike in, he just crushes. And
Done.
He's using the BMX in the half pipes here on Mammoth. And, you know, his edits, every time you post one, we're going to show it in the show.
Yeah. You already know. Thank you very much, Ian, for sharing this one this week. You can go check out Ian Hawk's Still Riding link down below. Another link down below. Holy crap. Okay, Hollow Endeavor is at episode 66 of his Rider Republic edit series. He's going to outpace us like next week.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. We're in a race to 100 with Hollow Endeavor. At least we don't have to do all of these technical tricks that he does in his edits. We just get to talk.
Phenomenal. Just absolutely tearing it apart in Area 52, The Ridge, and more. Go check out Glow live now on YouTube. And playing us out this week, none other than By Blast. This one titled Heal, featuring Black, a Riders Republic dual Taj.
I haven't heard that word before, and I don't know if we've seen too much from Black, so he is matching pace here with By Blast, and I love combo edits between 2 or 3 different riders.
Oh, yeah, cannot get enough. Thank you so much for these 3 riders for submitting their content. If you would like to be featured in next week's Riders Roundup, you can submit your latest video, your next dual or trio Taj, to the Nick and Mitch Discord server under the Self promo channel. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 67 out of our first 100 guaranteed episodes. Special thanks goes out to our YouTube members, executive producers, Bone Crusher 2D, my dad, Coach 34, and your mom, Mitch's mom, along with our co-producers and Fans Plus.
And if you want to be cool like my mom and his dad and Bone Crusher 2D, you can hit join down below to also become a member to support us in our videos. But you'll also get early access to the show, emojis, badges, a members only video per month, and much more. I know all 3 of them now have that gold 12 or gold 1 next to them for being over a year.
It's looking good. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. We appreciate all of you for watching this week's episode and all of our 67 episodes to this point. If you are in a part of the world that is celebrating St. Patrick's Day later this weekend, have fun, be safe, and rock your green. Don't drink too much. Thank you so much for joining us again. We'll see you back here, same place, same time next week for episode 68. Until then, I'm Nick.
And I'm Mitch.
And we'll see you on the slopes.